More Disney remakes of animated classics are on the way. But what if those classics are perfectly fine on their own? And what if they're not even old enough to be considered, well, classics? Does it not even matter so long as the remakes print cash? Should Disney be making one-to-one live-action remakes of all their hit animated films? No! And I'm about to tell you why. A live-action remake of Disney's Moana is brewing, with Dwayne Johnson set to reprise as Maui and original Moana voice actor Ali'i Cravalho as an executive producer. Great, super great, love Moana and loved it when it came out in 2016. And that's kind of the problem. Moana is not even 10 years old, too young to update, and there's nothing really in need of getting updated. The original does not need a refresh because it is already 1. Great as is, 2. Well received, and 3. Very fresh in memory. To be clear, the ideal reason a studio makes a remake is to, well, serve themselves, but importantly to also serve the audience. Older and overlooked movies being made anew for young, new audiences is a fantastic idea. Kids and parents could potentially connect with the same story through different ways that speak strongly to them. But a Moana remake now would essentially be for the exact same group that connected with the first one, and wouldn't by nature be able to provide a significantly different experience at all. So, why? I know what you're going to say. The money. Of course the money. Why do anything if not only for sweet, sweet cash money? Well, chill, Scrooge McDuck. There are plenty of reasons to do things beyond the short-term, satisfying sensation of diving into pools of gold coins. I want to point to Mulan, originally of Disney's 90s Renaissance period, and held in near unanimous high regard in modern times. It meant a lot to me as a kid, and it holds a special place in my heart to this day. I despised watching that beloved benchmark of my childhood transform into the live-action Mulan remake, which took away her story of humanity, determination, and brave belief in herself, to be substituted with a generic magic plot. That's just one opinion, and it's my own. However, in the landscape of other beloved 90s Disney movies, Aladdin, The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, there is a similar ring of criticism from people who loved those correctly pedestaled original films. A remake could likely never exceed its original form for these titans of Disney animation, and there is some danger in stripping away the very elements that made the original so beloved. It invites a lot of room for not just criticism, but personal loathing and a cynical reputation. But set that aside, here's the thing that can't be denied. While Aladdin, The Lion King, and Beauty and the Beast printed money, Mulan, the latest Disney Renaissance movie to originally release and be remade, lost $141 million. There are several other contributing reasons for why this happened. COVID, regional politics, but removing Mushu, Li Shang, Shan Yu, Mulan's grandmother, all the music, and much of the tones and themes had a lot to do with why people didn't embrace it. While it is important to make shifts in remakes, it is also important that those shifts don't chip away at the heart of why the project became popular in the first place, and that is exceedingly difficult with very popular properties. I'm actually really interested in seeing what happens with the soon-to-release Little Mermaid remake, since I do think there are some elements of the 1989 original that could actually use a modern refresh, and I am excited to see what Halle Bailey will do as Ariel. I know she can sing, and I think there's a good chance this version will add something new, perhaps in a similar vein as the Broadway musical version. This is technically a Disney Renaissance era title though, which means it will have extremely big shoes, or fins, to fill, and may start with a disadvantage as fans of the original immediately make comparisons. We'll see, but no matter what, nostalgia is a famously hard concept to top. That is why I think there needs to be a change. I propose from now on Disney only remake its forgotten films and flops, the movies that genuinely deserve another chance and could hit well with new audiences. There are some real low-key treasures in the Disney vault that for one reason or another didn't land, but really have the potential to shine for new audiences. What I'm saying is, Make me a live-action Emperor's New Groove, you cowards. I'm kidding. But actually, I'm dead serious. This in particular is a great example of circumstance and getting better with time. I'm going to take you on a quick history lesson, and it does serve a point. 2000s, The Emperor's New Groove had a really rocky development phase, and when it originally began production, it was not a comedy, but a serious dramatic prestige film called Kingdom of the Sun. Somewhat based on Inca creation mythology with Lion King director Roger Allers attached. It was going to be a sprawling and expensive, epic Prince and the Pauper story starring Owen Wilson and David Spade in a supporting role. Sting was even going to make music for the whole movie, much like Elton John successfully had for The Lion King. And then everything broke down. Following poor box office outlook, everything shifted. The original vision more or less fell apart, new creatives came on with competing ideas, and they were tens of millions of dollars in the hole with nothing to show for it. At a breaking point, Disney CEO Michael Eisner was said to have left the remaining team 2 weeks to salvage the project or lose it all. And what they came up with was what we got, a light screwball buddy comedy with a cast shakeup that included adding John Goodman and Patrick Warburton, both of whom gave excellent scene-stealing performances. Sting was pretty mad, but what they ended up with was a buddy movie about a spoiled brat learning about true friendship and what it is to be actually happy. Now it's a certified cult hit with a message that resonates even better with modern audiences. Bottom line, an epic got reworked into a comedy instead of not happening at all. It was like scrambling and staying up all night to completely redo a group project, mostly by yourself, and turning in a solid B, B- the next morning. You imagined an A, but after half the group split and one person made something completely unusable, this became the reality of the situation. This has happened to you too, right? Yeah? It's not just me? The Emperor's New Groove was Disney's lowest performer in decades. You can blame the low marketing spend, you can blame the cataclysmic production and change from one film to an absolutely different end product in a fairly short time. It's an interesting story I encourage you to look into in full, but I will say, all movies that bomb have one. There was a good enough germ of an idea to get greenlit, and then something happened. Sometimes things take a while to get there, and the while costs a lot of money and involves a salvage job. But what if for the remake, the creative team focused on making what the project ended up being the best version of itself it could possibly be? What if some of the good ideas that got thrown out, like in this case elements of Incan and Peruvian culture and jettisoned characters, got reworked with care and focus? Imagine what could be done without all the panicked rewrites, blown budgets, and last-minute pivoting this time. And The Emperor's New Groove is not Disney's only cult hit by a stretch. Treasure Planet, the sci-fi take on Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island, featuring robotic and alien characters and a mix of wooden pirate ships and sci-fi technologies, was beautifully designed but ultimately a box office disappointment for Disney. Reasons for its flop include protagonist Jim Hawkins being a cranky teen instead of a wide-eyed boy, the fact that it was competing against Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets theatrical release, and maybe that it was just a little ahead of its time. Only with later audiences did the movie achieve cult acclaim for its many big artistic choices and its what is true wealth story choices. All of these problems could be easily remedied with a remake, and some of the more dazzling space adventure fantasy elements could even be more visually appealing in live action. Okay, I know this would be heavy CGI. Then there's the case of Atlantis, The Lost Empire, which also underwhelmed studio expectations. This was supposed to be a game changer. It would have shifted how Disney made animated films, kicked off an animated series, and even transformed Disney parks. And then it didn't. Like Treasure Planet, Atlantis has a gorgeously articulated, fully expressed visual world inspired by Jules Verne and Mike Mignola. It even features its own functional language designed by the creator of Star Trek's Klingon language. Some have pinned the lack of success on the lack of songs and a heavier, more adult story that dragged, and that moviegoers of the time were more interested in cheeky CGI fare like Shrek than more earnest hand-drawn animation. I tend to agree with the story criticism and that there are too many not very interesting supporting characters. Again, many of these problems are immediately thwarted by the nature of a live-action CGI-supported remake. and pacing issues are definitely possible to fix, while so much of what was good about Atlantis would shine in a live-action format for new audiences. There are some upcoming Disney live-action movies in development that have promise in this direction. The Sword in the Stone, an older animated classic, is said to be in development with Game of Thrones writer and producer Brian Cogman penning the script, and Juan Carlos Fresnadillo of 28 Weeks Later directing, according to The Hollywood Reporter. This would certainly be a new direction for the 1963 Arthurian legend story, and get kids to stop asking, "Why is that sword stuck in that anvil? Is that guy Dumbledore?" at Disney parks. Another upcoming live-action remake project with promise is the Aristocats directed by Questlove, which would certainly update the musical elements from the late 60s, with Easy A's Will Gluck and Onward writer Keith Boonen on the script. Finally, we'll be shown why this white kitten in particular is in so much Disney merch. This is a great opportunity to spotlight, if not totally rework, the Aristocats and other not quite impeachable legend status movies for new eyes. Disney, I'm speaking to you directly here. You could flip the history on what some of your movies represent culturally by reimagining them and growing things that underperformed but had promise and hope into real successes once and for all. You could bring joy to newer, younger audiences by renewing and refreshing your older, less loved IP. And if you can't, make Kuzco a sassy meet and greet character at Disneyland, you cowards! Please. I'm Kim Horcher, thanks for watching, and for more on Disney animation, here are our favorites, the top 25 Disney animated films of all time. Check that out, and don't forget to follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.